but we need to also like wake up the world to be like, stop prioritizing the wrong thing. If your priority is actual defense, okay, put a knife in your hand and go after that guy, right? And this guy who has done a lot of art in their martial arts and not a lot of not a lot of failure, isn't really going to do that much better than this guy. Hey, what's going on, Dean? So good to see you, man. Oh yeah, he still got it. He still got it.
Oh,
For the
I'll never
viewers,
forget
little
that.
inside joke there. Dean loved it. Dean
Anytime I can
loved
hijack your
it.
jumping over
Oh,
you, in front of you.
good times, good times. So everybody, this is Dean Franco. Dean Franco is a phenomenal Filipino martial artist. I'll let him tell you all about it. But Dean and I have made a knife defense course that's available. Please just check it out on my website at calgarygongfu.com if you want to learn more about us and the realities in knife defense. We're obviously going to get into that today. But Dean, why don't you tell us about yourself? Tell us all the social media stuff that you have, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so started FMA in the late 90s. It was Anasawa Blend. From there, I was just immersed in it. I just never seen anything like this coming from a traditional martial arts background. So I immediately got just overly enthused, and so I was bouncing around, um, not for rank or anything like that. I just loved what I was seeing. So from Anasawa Blend, went to SEAC. From SEAC, went to Atienza. And at that time was the Connecticut rep for Atienza. I got apprentice from SEAC. And that time I opened up my school. This is all around circa 2002.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, so as the school started growing, my ability to be a student was getting difficult because the school was just needed so much attention in my time.
I hear you.
So I was still doing stuff for sure, but I was mostly doing my own um, knife stuff. It was more definitely on the defensive end and there. But at that time, there was no social media, really didn't have a platform. So basically, I was just known in my immediate area. 2012, I just wanted to be a student. I just like, I'm seeing social media and everybody, and I felt like I'm missing out. And
Yeah.
so I sold the school
Okay.
and got things, a year, just, got things sorted and handled. And so around late 2013, yeah, I became a student. So I went with Abenir Khalis, who I'm still with, Burton Richardson.
Yep.
A year later, got with Tom Sodas and Muck, who I'm still with,
Yep.
and then deep dive in KI. So everything that I transitioned to, I'm still doing now, and yeah, so it's been really great. And in addition to that, really zoned in more of the defense of empty hand against knife.
Yeah.
Launched my own system, incorporate some offense and besides the defense because I was really just coming from a defensive perspective.
Tell the audience what your system is called, Dean.
Blade Technologies.
There you
Yeah,
go. There you go. Make
yeah.
sure you
So
get
what
food with that
initially
stuff. It's
was,
really good.
yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, so what initially would start out just defensive.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, here's my first TV. It came out like 20 something years ago.
Oh,
And it's just with defensive. And but I certainly have not only evolved from defensively, but also the addition of the offense knife on knife for a better understanding of the defense.
yeah.
Then got into the prison system. So I was just seeing these attacks, gross motor, and then I just looked at these prison systems for relevance. You know, the two being that I'm referencing, Piper, which is out South Africa knife
Yeah.
system,
Yeah.
Medusa is more of your American penal tactics prison system, and
Yeah.
they're generally gravitating bigger, stronger guys. Piper, where they're generally the gangsters are smaller,
Okay.
but kind of like hit and runs. I mean, like you don't know what's coming at you, when it's coming at you. Really taxing on the frontal lobe. Whereas Medusa, I'm gonna latch you. I'm gonna essentially grab you,
Yeah.
and this is coming. Yeah. So between
Right.
the two, it's all so under Blade Tech umbrella. You have the dueling and sparring, FMA, Amok, Defense, and then Medusa and Piper, where we take an intrinsic look at the prison stuff and how they're so. If you look at Blake Tech, it's really is a comprehensive
Hmm.
overlook on knife, not just dueling sparring, but
Yeah.
everything and all ranges included.
Well,
So
I
yeah,
think
that's kind of up to status quo. Well, of course, FMA discussion,
yes, yes.
that group there.
That group that gives you so much love and so much hate. So that's called FMA discussion there, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, so
I think
that's
they're over what, 15,000 followers now on there?
it's actually closer to 18.
18 now. Wow. Congrats.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. I
awesome.
mean, I mean, you hear that number and you're thinking like, oh my God, 18. But you know as well as I do, at that 18, there's probably what, maybe 10% that are involved. You know what I mean?
For
Or
sure.
but so that are active, posting, commenting, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Um, but it's nice because it's the hub where I can put the interviews in, promote the interviews. But the other thing too, people understand, it's really not just about me. I mean, it's overall promotion of folks who are doing seminars, events,
Yeah.
whatever on the umbrella FMA. I mean, we make it inclusive there, so we really do highlight kind of everything FMA related.
Yeah, and I think that's fantastic, right? And I think you have the perfect name for FMA discussion, right? It's a community that you've brought together of people in the Filipino martial arts world, which, as you know, comes with its highs and lows. It's my system is better. Well, no, my system is better. Well, your stuff doesn't work. Well, this doesn't work, right? But I mean, that's exactly what you and I went through. You did it more in the Filipino martial arts world. I
Mm,
feel like maybe I did it more in the hand-to-hand world, where it's like everybody's saying they're the best, and Dean and I are in the middle, finding a very Canadian approach, even though he's not Canadian, to be like, I'm going to train all of them. I'm
mm.
going to see what works and what doesn't work, and I'm going to go pressure test those techniques. And then I'm going to put them together because nobody else really has, and nobody else has really done our the hard work that we did and the sacrifice to our bodies. So,
Very little, right? When you
yeah,
look at the camps, like,
yeah,
yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I mean, with your reference there to FMA discussion, who's this and that. I mean, like, you know, all things considered, compare and contrast to other groups. I mean, like, I keep it civil in there. Like, I have zero tolerance. Like, you're gonna call somebody a name that is 1,000 miles away from you. Like, I just have zero tolerance for that. So,
for sure. Yeah,
compared to the other groups, we people are allowed to go there, convey their opinions, as long as they're doing respectfully doubt
yeah,
without being attacked. And so it has that good reputation for that, which is what I'm really most happy about.
for
That
sure. Yeah,
people feel they can go there and feel comfortable in that. But yeah, much to your point though, you know, I remember it was like around 3,000 members, and this is going back like late 2019, maybe early 2020.
yeah,
I'm like, oh, this is easy. I'm just like, I'm by myself. I'm not having to do anything.
yeah, yeah,
The moment, I don't know, and the moment it got around like five, I'm putting fires out left and right.
yeah. Hey,
I mean,
yeah,
it's just miserable. And finally, I had put rules in there. I had to kick like 20 people out, set the tone. But I tell you though, ever since I've done that, it is few and far between. It's basically, knock on wood, kind of like been on autopilot.
yeah. Well, and that's what I think is super important, right? Is you have to set those guidelines
Mm,
because if you and I, like for me anyways, if I ever went to a place and the sensei was just shutting down other schools or other styles just to make themselves look good, I wouldn't stay there for long, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, show me what you represent without putting other people down. And I'm right there with you because that's my journey and that's what I want to go through. I mean, that's to a reason. Like I was on FMA discussion. I think it was actually before I was doing Walk. So this would have been prior to 2000 and what is that, 14 maybe? So I was doing Filipino martial arts with Guro, Joel Hungar. Shout out to him as
Mm,
always. Um, he opened up my eyes to what FMA is and stick and knife fighting, and it was great. I mean, I train FMA because, to be honest, I think one of the scariest situations I could ever deal with is if I'm being attacked with a blade, right? Like a stick is one thing. I've been hit with sticks, I've been hit with baseball bats and things like that, but to be hit with a knife is a whole different thing. And that's where I was like, okay, like, what would I do? Do I have the training? And the answer was no.
mm,
I had some training, but then I realized after pressure testing some of the training I'd learned from, let's just say, instructors that were very good at their skills, but not specialized in knife
mm.
work. I'm sure you've been through that, the Taekwondo guys, the karate
Few
guys.
times, yeah.
Yeah, a few times, right? I mean, the thing is it's like good on them for trying to teach it, but go and
Yeah.
get some real training or at least just pressure test. I mean, when we were in the military, right, and I wanted to do some knife stuff and we hadn't learned a lot of the knife stuff yet, we just grabbed like little plastic knives from the mess,
Yeah.
right? And we would just, making sure the sergeants weren't around in the middle of the night. We'd wake up and we'd try and stab each other with knives and, do like grappling and all these things because I wanted to see what it did or didn't work. And um, I used to love disarms, like knife disarms. I did knife disarms all the time. And then I pressure tested knife disarms. And then the knife disarms weren't working anymore. And it was actually training with you that opened my eyes back up to, hey, there is a possibility here, and you don't need a lot of training for it. You still need to train, obviously,
Mm.
right? But it's just changing a concept to it, which was absolutely fantastic. And that's what the students will see when we collaborated um, for our knife defense digital seminar, right? It's a really it's years of training, decades of training that you and I kind of brought
Yeah.
together, right? And that was super fun to film, by the way.
No,
How,
no, I
I mean,
know.
it's
I
been
mean,
8 months. Like, have you changed a lot of what you do or changed anything or?
no, no, um, the only, I mean, like I mean, if you look at the program itself, we were covering basically the more generic attacks.
Yeah,
We didn't get, but so far as that is concerned, no. I just continue to refine, you
yeah,
know, yeah, like, I mean, I think if I'm not mistaken, we covered Sober Machine and the overhead, whether it lands on inside or outside on your
yeah,
forearm
yeah.
and there, and
Slashes.
obviously, some ground stuff. So regards to that material, it just continues refinement. But you know, much to your point, when you're going, and this is what's frustrating. I mean, this opens a gamut. Yeah, it's an incredibly difficult aspect of FMA, and
Yeah,
one I believe that I don't think gets addressed enough or looked at it more in a way of integrity and honesty. You know what I mean? And then you got the social media aspect where you can kind of filters and make it appear,
yeah,
that. But if you've been in there, you know what to see and what to look for, and in there. And so it's been very gratifying for me to accomplish what I've accomplished and being early on, like I hate to say use the word trendsetter because I don't,
yeah,
but just being early on
yeah,
and seeing the evolution of people like looking at 201 now. Whereas when I started doing it in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was so a tapping based
yeah,
community.
yeah,
I wasn't getting any traction anywhere with the exception of my immediate. community. So it's nice to see
Can you,
that.
sorry to interrupt, can you
Oh no,
just
go ahead.
explain to the audience what tapping is?
Sure. Yeah. So tapping is basically what you'll see in a lot of quote unquote traditional FMA systems. And basically what it is angles coming at you. You're basically, I would go with my cross arm, meet it. It's a meet. And then I would bring it down with some energy, either put it back into them or parry it back out there. If a closed strike came, I would do again subsequent with the left and there. And that's basically there with some body orientation in there.
Yeah,
And my lens on tapping is I'm not saying it's bad.
yeah,
Man, if night comes in there, I tap it, I throw the arm out, I get to my weapon. Man, I think it's great.
yeah,
I think it's a a methodology for that. I think it works well.
yeah,
My argument, though, is if you're using as a sole means of defense without, again, context, without you're going to get an equalizer or
yeah,
use through the arm for egress, but as a sole means of defense, I'm sorry, that's where I have an issue with
yeah, yeah. Well, and it's I mean, since we've trained, so I have adopted the double catch technique. I wouldn't say I use it more. I'm still more of a bar and catch guy, probably because I've been training it for 20-ish
it.
years,
Yeah,
right? So it feels more natural to me. It ties in a little bit more of my karate stance. It pins the elbow a little bit more in, but my transitions to my double catch now are much more fluid, which is opening up possibilities of disarms, which is also opening up actually a lot more Russian ties.
mm,
Since you and I have filmed and trained together, I went and did the IDS course under Todd Fauci, and
mm,
I used to really think that, like, okay, so with my knife, for example, so if I had a quick draw on, like from Tallywag Tactical, like I love their stuff, um, is I could lift my shirt, so what's called Dracula guard. I could go to Dracula guard, I can pull it out, and I could stab within
mm,
under a second,
yeah,
right? So I was like, well, in under a second, I could be able to do this, but the way I train and the way that you and I train is we've already been ambushed. So we've been ambushed, and well, now we need control of the weapon. So now we need control of the weapon. We find control of the weapon. It has nothing to do with getting your weapon out first or faster,
mm,
right? It has to do with, okay, you have dealt with the weapon using a 2-on-1 technique, right? Whether it be double catch or bar and catch. And now we're finding control. And that's why I really like Todd Fauci's way that he puts it is
yeah,
don't be a gun fighter, be a fighter with a gun.
yeah,
So when I started implementing that without my gun, but just with my knife, is I started realizing the things that you and I did in order to get my weapon out, like you just said, like I could do tappy tappy and pull my weapon out, but in the time that I go to draw my weapon, even in a second, I was getting stabbed again. So
yeah,
I didn't actually have time to do that. And that's where finding control and doing the stuff that you and I do, right, and that we filmed was just a compliment to the things that Todd was saying. So I think the three of us, it would be very cool to get us all together for sure, to
yeah,
be able to fight, to be able to do these things. But really, just as a concept, I think we're all teaching the same thing. But the one thing that all of us had in common was pressure testing. And it was, is this
common
going to work
denominator.
under pressure against a student or against an uke or an attacker that isn't going to allow us to do the technique to make us look good on social media, right? And I think
Yeah,
that's it. That's kind of what you're referencing with that social media references.
yeah, it's getting back to what you were saying, like I've talked to Todd, as
Yeah,
he was on the show, and I know he comes the Russian tie lends itself to drawing. Man, you get here, your right hand. I mean, yeah, I am all aboard of that.
yeah,
I come from the premise from like Mammalian where family there. I need to
yeah,
deal with the threat
yeah,
before opportunity.
yes, yes,
So I would look at prioritization, you know what I mean? But I think he's great in that regard for there. Um, and that, so I'm more like, okay, why am I dealing with this knife?
yeah,
Why am I not running away? No, well, I'm two reasons. and this is what I tell my students. So
Yep.
far as their priorities, I can't run because A, he's in front of the eggers, or I have a more obligation to my family. So I
Yep.
go from the worst spectrum where I have to deal with it. But
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man, bolt when you can, equalizer when
Yep.
you can. I mean, yeah. So
Yep.
um, I just found out going from the worst, everything after that kind of became easier. You know what I mean? When I look at the worst scenario, man, I got my kids with me.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
yeah, but
that's the thing with Todd is like a data savant, right?
yeah,
So now all the things that you and I like, you've categorized it in your head as I'm with my family. There's no way I can do that. I love that you put that because that's so important. But the realities of knife attacks and knife defense situations are the fact that you're getting ambushed. That you don't even know a knife is presented. Remember, criminals are really, really good at
yeah,
talking their way into a situation where they can get close enough that they can hide their weapon. And all of a sudden, before you know it, you've already been stabbed. Like I've trained police officers and they're approaching a subject, the subject's really good at talking to them, right? They get stabbed unbeknownst to them, they're getting stabbed, the cops in the fight, they're doing the whole fight, they get them arrested, they put them in, right? They throw them in the back of the car, okay, self-check, they're doing self-check, they're like, man, that guy hit me with a good kidney shot, that mofo, right? And then they look and they're like, oh man, I've been stabbed, right?
yeah,
And it's like that's the reality of it is you may not even know it. The adrenaline is pumping, all these things are taking place. And then when Todd comes in and backs it up with the actual force science data and showing like, hey, no, like your average attack is going to be ambush. Now we're looking at the realities of it, where I think there's this fallacy in this world of it's maybe it's because we watch too many kung fu movies and fight movies of I see
yeah,
that guy has a knife, I'm gonna pull my knife. Now we're in a knife
yeah. The whole
and
like,
then I mean, to be honest, my students love it because I do it so rarely. They love it when I say, okay, everybody grab a knife today.
yeah,
And you just see their eyes open up and there's a chance for them like, I'm gonna learn some cool ass shit today. I'm gonna be able to feel like a martial artist and I'm gonna
Guro,
go on TV, right? And all
yeah,
these things. But every day if we do knife stuff, I'm like, okay, get a knife for you and your partner. So it's just one, right? It's just
yeah,
one knife, and now they're like, oh shit, this is gonna be a hard class. Okay, I'm gonna leave with a whole bunch of bruises today. Okay, I'm gonna have weird marks on my neck when I go to school tomorrow, or when I'm at work tomorrow, and people are gonna question, right? But that's the realities of night defense, right? And I think that's why you and I were on such the same page with that.
yeah.
So what is it that maybe you're seeing that like the average person, maybe the viewers today?
I think there's not enough attention put into the pre-violence stage.
Okay.
I mean, like, okay, yeah, man, I'm walking down the sidewalk, somebody jumps out of the tree. Well, you know what, man, you're just gonna have to do the best you can with that
Yep.
first shot, and hopefully it wasn't going into your subclavian and you're done, right?
Mhm.
So, in other words, when you ambush is a tough subject matter. Like, okay, well, first of all, what was the ambush?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like it's so open ended, right?
Yeah.
So I just always say, man, yeah, hopefully it wasn't that bad. You can click into your training and there. But back to the pre-violence, like this is what really illuminated this aspect to me, where now it's such a comprehensive aspect in blade tech is like Medusa and Piper.
Yep.
Like there are ways of deception. So it's deception, playing on the mind, fakes, playing on reflexes, right? So Piper and Medusa excel in those areas getting close. So the whole theme in Blade Tech is how did it get there? Like,
Yep.
why are you letting somebody that you don't know get that close? I know we're social
Yes.
creatures. We
Yes.
want to be friendly. We want to
Yes.
be like appeasing to folks. But man, today's world where you're seeing out there and reading and news, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera.
Yeah.
Like I tell my students, like creating good habits, and man, not letting anybody get that So when people take my classes and all that, it's a steady diet before they even do a sewing machine defense. Before they're even, it is mock drills on not letting anybody get close to you and how they
You
do get close to you. To me,
Mm.
there's not enough attention put into that. Like if you notice, like everybody's trying right there. Well, how the hell? How did they get there?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
But
So,
verbal de-escalation is an entire martial art in itself, right?
amen.
And I think that's where like there's some really good people out there. Randy King's one of the guys. Like, I mean, Rich Dimitri back in the day, he was really good, right? Where they're spending a lot of their course like not doing physical stuff, but talking about it, and it's great. But
Yeah.
as you and I both know, it's boring, right? And you have to
Yeah, you
find,
want to jump in, man. I want to get in that.
yeah,
Yeah, I totally agree. But after doing those systems,
yeah,
what I did agree with you, what was boring, not exciting, no
yeah,
adrenaline dump.
yeah,
I
yeah,
totally get you.
yeah,
But I am so seeing just the incredible value, importance to the student body. Because man, it doesn't freaking matter what I like or not with
yeah,
more man.
yeah.
But integrity to them and give them the best version of product. The pre-buy, it's got to be looked at.
Well, and I think that's why, like, when we made our seminar, we sat down and we had that discussion, right? And we
Mm,
kind of did like a mini podcast for people to watch. I honestly feel that more people will get what they need to get for knife defense from watching the podcast first than any of the physical training. And I know that sounds like so terrible, probably a
no,
terrible
but I know, but I
sentence,
can
but
appreciate
it's
what
the
you're saying.
truth.
Yeah,
Well, it's the truth, right? And that's why I use the word boring because that's where it requires a martial arts student or anybody to show self-discipline and be like, I'm going to do this because here you have two instructors, right? I've been teaching for over 21 years. Dean, how long have you been teaching for? I'd hate to date you, but like three
no, no,
decades?
gee, I'm not saying you're old, but no, no.
Hey, you don't
um,
have that much gray hair, brother. You don't have that much gray hair.
I know I'm turning big 6-0 in like
Wow.
5 months.
In 5 years. Wow,
I
you look
don't
great.
feel it's weird, man, but that's a whole nother. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, so 23, 24 years. Yeah.
23. So here we have, give or take 45 years of teaching experience. And you're hearing from, we were students too, and we still are, but we
Mm,
loved doing the adrenaline dumping stuff. We loved doing the physical stuff. That's what brought us into martial art, right?
yeah.
So I'm going to label it this way. That would be a level one student. Level two, three, four, five, six, seven, you get to the point of being a good, solid instructor. Not just a level four student who turned an instructor. We know those people all too well, don't we, Dean? Right? Where they're like, I know martial arts, but what they do is they prioritize the fun, right? And
Yeah.
I think the fun is great. The fun is what sells. The fun is what brings people into your classes. The
Mm,
fun is what brings you on an international level to go teach and go do things. But the priority, listening from two level seven instructors, I know that sounds
mm,
cocky as fuck, but it's the truth, right?
yeah.
Is if you really want to be good at not getting stabbed or slashed or cut, prioritize verbal de-escalation, prioritize setting boundaries, prioritize. And if you don't know how to do that, watch my podcast. That's why we do this for you guys, right? Because here you have, even with Todd as well, right? Here we have these high level trained people, and what they're saying is the training is very important, but it's not as important as this. And I think that's the reality of the knife defense. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the sad part of social media. Like, we're over 3.8 million followers now, billion plus views. Like, things are just growing and growing and growing. But to be honest, Dean, I don't know still how to succinctly, in less than a minute, put a video out there that will be engaging to people, that will tell them the realities of knife defense, that will tell them the
Mm.
realities of self-defense without them going boring, swipe on to the next reel,
Yeah, I
right?
get it.
It's so
Yeah.
hard to do. It's so hard. And that's why they have to be these long-winded discussions in almost like a podcast
Mm.
format where it's like, we need to talk. We need to bounce ideas off each other. We need to what if this. We need to do this, but we need to also like wake up the world to be like, stop prioritizing the wrong thing if your priority is actual defense. If you want to do level 4 stuff, level 1 stuff, please do it. Like I love it. It's deed in mind, heart, and passion. That's what we love doing. But it may not be the best thing for you to
It's
actually do.
not good. Here's the thing, like, like, and I've had like literally like right in front of me watching on a daily basis the FMA discussion. I mean,
Yeah,
right in front of me, like, I
yeah,
mean, actually getting drowning in it. Um, it's not going to happen. And the reason being is there's a monetary aspect to this. Like, some of the people I'm talking about in there, like without mentioning names, like you have these guys, and right, it's based on fun and they have a following.
yeah,
And so people are intrigued because, oh man, it looks fun. And God, I'm not going to have like Dean stabbing at me, or I'm not going to have to defend against Kevin Goat or like that. But this looks fun and like in there. And then like it's appealing. It just is like,
it
and
is.
like hard work and getting in the trenches and failing and going home, yeah, a little sore, and your ego like kind of
There it is.
damaged, and
It is.
your
Yeah.
sleepless nights in bed. For me, and perhaps I take this too seriously, but like I was saying, like not the what, but how, where, and when did that happen? Like how did I fail at that? And
Yeah.
that's a lot. It's time consuming. It's
Yeah.
taxing
Yeah.
emotionally.
Yeah.
And people like if you like, let's look at this realistically. Let's look at the camps who really get in there in the trenches, man, and show
Yeah.
me, you,
Yeah.
Burton,
Yeah.
Craig Douglas.
Yeah.
I think it's fair. He's more gun. Sounds like
Todd Fauci's 100% there. Yeah.
So okay, so I got four. I'm not saying there's not more.
Yeah.
Okay, Todd.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
right now, off the top of my head, I can't. I got five. I can't think of any more. What does that
Really?
tell you? Now, I'm not saying there's not. I'm not saying there's
For
not
sure.
anymore.
For sure. But I mean, you are in it. Like if there is anybody else in the FMA world, right, that would know what's going on, you're the guy. I mean,
I
that's
mean, Tom Sotis. The
okay.
reason why I put that
Yeah.
because he doesn't consider him FMA. Okay, so
Yeah.
there's six. Now under Burton, of course, he's got instructors, so
Yeah.
that flowers out a bit.
For sure.
Under
For
Tom,
sure. Yeah.
that flowers out a bit.
Yeah.
You in there, but think about that. Like off the top of my head, six.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, were they
That's
showing?
thousands, ladies and gentlemen. Thousands.
Right. Yeah. So when you look at let's say out the combatives world. So let's look at from a pure lens of FMA, right?
Okay.
Now I could tell you right now what systems do. I could tell you what Dose Parts does. I could tell you what KI does. I could
Yeah.
tell you what PK detergent. I mean,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Are now, honestly speaking, are you seeing them doing what me and you are doing?
Are they posting it? No.
No.
Are they doing it? I do know a lot of people that train, right, in those systems, right, even locally here, right, who they fail, but I don't see them post their failures, right? And I think that's the selling thing, right? And like you said, is it a monetary gain or is it an ego thing? I think what
I
separates
think
that
it's both.
level 4 instructor from that level 7 instructor is that they have less ego and they don't care about posting their failures, right? The thing is what's hard is when we make videos and we do these things like as an influencer now, well, that's weird to say, or as a
You
YouTuber,
are an
right?
influencer.
It's like, right? It's like, so here I am, I'm doing these things, I'm posting success, but where's my failures, right?
Right,
I
right,
don't
yeah.
post a lot of the failures because people will swipe. That guy doesn't know what he's fucking talking about. That shit doesn't work. I don't want to follow him. It doesn't work. But then they see it work, or I'll throw it in like 3 seconds of flash. It's working. They're like, well, that only works because you're 6'4" and 250 pounds, right? And then it's so then you get the whole comments and everything like that, and it's weird, right? So I mean, I really appreciate being on your list, but the only reason why I'm on your list, Dean, is because you've trained with me. And because
No, 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 fair
no,
enough on that.
yeah,
Like I experienced your energy and all that. Yeah, no, 100%.
yeah,
And and the thing is, when I say six, because I want to be clear to the community or those who watch this aftermath, is that I'm not saying there's others out there. I'm going with the optics that
yeah,
presented me. Yeah, there could be guys that we don't know that are doing phenomenal work.
yeah,
Maybe they don't post a lot and all that. And I know there's some bikini guys that do look outside of there. Like for instance,
yeah.
Jared's Tactical Association. There's some guys that really look heavily on the 2-on-1 and stuff like that. So you could throw him in there under not under his. He's got two associations. He's got the pure PTT. I mean
Yeah,
bikini
yeah, yeah.
Persia, and then
We
he's
understand what you're
got
saying. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So, but what I guess what I really mean is, okay, I'm going to use the vehicle of FMA discussion group. Okay, man, FMA is it's really far, is really turning into this, it's a stick based stuff. I mean, the majority of stuff that I see come in the group is stick based. I mean, when I go do the seminars, I just did one in LA
yeah,
and there, I see the guys, they're more stick based centric. And when we go to knife, then I start seeing bigger gaps. Well, that's a micronism of the macro of FMA discussion group. I'm seeing it. It's heavily a stick based culture.
yeah.
And so I don't, so when with knife, so definitely less in there. And then within that less who trained it, it's
Mm,
really starts to get minute
mm.
as far as who's really doing what we're doing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
You
That's
know?
a really cool lens to come from, right? Because I mean, I started FMA because I was scared of a knife, and I hold a stick a certain way because that's how I would hold a knife, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't hold a stick in a certain way, as I'm sure you know, and I don't want to call people out on it because it could easily be disarmed. The reason why I say that is not disarmed by somebody else, but disarmed by myself. The first time I cut into a dead pig and I disarmed myself, do you know how embarrassed I was? Right? In a room full of guys that know me as like, yo, this dude's a badass, like this is gonna be sick. And then all of a sudden I disarm
Oh,
myself and I'm like, oh man, what's my fault? Right. And I remember texting my Guro Joe Hungar, and I was like, what happened? Like, what's going on? Right. He's like, it's your grip. Like, try this, try this. And he's like, why are you holding it that way? And I was, well, I seen these guys do it and I wanted to play with that. And they say it works here and they say it doesn't work here. And like that changed how I hold a stick. And to be honest, that's why I originally really, really loved Blint Walk, because it's a grip. You try and disarm a Blint Walk guy, you
mm.
gotta have you gotta have some real structural integrity,
Yeah.
timing, mass, and everything, right? It's like I remember the first time you went to disarm me and you were like, holy shit. I gotta really put some effort in this. Kevin's got a real good
That's
grip.
where like that. Well, one thing that came out of our training, it's
Yeah,
so ironic because a couple weeks before going to you, I was playing around with rotation.
yeah,
In other words, I was always going linear. Like
yeah,
I would
yeah.
take the linear momentum and do there. But I started, man, I'm getting older. Maybe, and I got it from Piper. But then it
Yeah.
was the timing couldn't have been better because when I got you, I was like, uh-oh. And then I had to go rotation.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what pressure testing is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so funny. It made me think of something like last week, right? So last week we're training something with my students, right? And he like the uke in front of the students is like he kind of goes like soft. I'm like, what are you doing? Right. And he's like, well, what do you mean? What do you mean? I'm like, he's like, I want you to finish the technique. I'm like, I'll finish the technique. You resist. That's your job. Stop trying to make me look good in front of the students. If it doesn't work and something else happens, I'm going to do this. So it's almost like my uke was worried about my own ego, where for me is it's like, if a mistake happens, like while we're filming, or if a mistake happens somewhere else, there will be times where I'll have to look at it and be like, okay, this is what I actually did. He fed his energy in a different way. I know we're working on technique A today, but
Mm.
he didn't feed me technique A response. He was actually feeding me technique B response. And I had to change what I did to make that work. That's
Mm.
that high level instructor where I remember being that level 4 instructor at a certain point and like getting mad at the uke and be like, you're doing it wrong. Right. And like push them aside and grab another uke and be like, okay, yeah, yeah, that's better. See, right now it works and everything works. Right. It's all his fault. He didn't know how to hold a stick or he didn't know how to do
He
whatever.
did,
Right.
he
And I
fed
was just
me.
blaming everything externally, right? And that's why I love the saying, like, you can't blame someone because every time you point the finger at somebody, there's three always pointed back at you. And that's why I say it's ego, right? Is look at yourself three times as hard. And those are the nights, Dean, where I
Yeah.
would sit at home and I'd be like, what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? Is there something that I'm not catching as an instructor?
Mm.
Right away, it always came back to ego of, I was attached to an outcome to not look stupid in front of this. With film, it's very easy. No, you're feeding it wrong. Cut. Okay, we're going to do it. Feed it this way. It's going to make me look better. It's going to make the technique look better. It's going to be more succinct. The audience is going to like it. It's going to be there. It's going to be quick. They're going to be able to. We're going to stop their scrolling. They're scrolling. They're scrolling. They stop scrolling. Sweet. They're watching it. Ooh, they're intrigued. Yeah. Okay. Sweet. They see it. Okay. Next, and then they move on. That's your average person, I think, right? When we're talking about this funnel that's feeding down, I really don't think that
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who want to pressure test their techniques because it's hard.
Hard, and they're putting themselves, you're, I mean, what are you doing? You're putting yourself out there. I mean,
Yeah.
assuming that you're going to put it on some platform, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
so yeah, you're running the risk, you're putting it out there, you're running the risk of who's going to say what, and
Yeah.
whether it's constructive or it's just blatant, just nasty commentary. So I mean, yeah, so there's definitely apprehension. I mean, I was there one time, and I mean, for sure, I think we all were,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of us that have profound respect for those who do it, that maybe it doesn't show the best results, but man, they put themselves in the trenches. Like, I have utmost respect for anybody who put themselves in the trenches against anything against knife, and maybe there was a better method, but you know what, they put themselves there. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like, you have my respect. I mean, like, because well, like, man, yeah, I've been there. I know
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
sucks, right?
But I think that's also where there's like, so for example, if I have a brand new student who's same size and weight and height,
Mm,
just to make it easy. And then I have a 20-year student who has a lot of training, same size and height. And I'm going to say training that isn't from one of us who pressure tests.
yeah.
And you say, okay, put a knife in your hand and go after that guy, right? And this guy who has done a lot of art in their martial arts and not a lot of martial, not a lot of failure, isn't really going to do that much better than this guy. And I think that's a really hard pill for somebody to swallow who has dedicated their whole life to training and to martial arts. And now they're failing, right? And well, I remember it. I remember the day all
It's a
too
tough
well.
pill, man. Like, you got
Yeah.
two
It's a
decades
hard pill to swallow. It's
invest
really
into
hard. It makes
something.
you think like all those years
Yeah.
of training that you did, all those sacrifices you made aren't really worth it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what, to me anyways, at least to my followers, that's what I think that they see is it's like, I don't want to waste my time spending 20 years in stuff that may or may not work. I don't
Mm,
mind putting my kids in it because they're going to learn about a good environment. They're going to learn about self-discipline.
yeah.
They're going to learn about perseverance. They're going to learn about competition, all these things. So that's great. But when it comes to them, they're like, my followers, anyways, are like, I want the most efficient way, the most succinct way, the fastest way, especially because we're in North America, to learn how to build defense that is going to work. I don't want to learn the frilly dilly stuff. I don't want to learn this funnel to eventually get to
Yeah,
healing.
get to where you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like my followers like, this is what I like. And this is what they say in the comments. Like, I love your no BS approach. I love that this
Yeah.
seems like it would work. I love that you're prioritizing gross motor skills versus fine motor skills. I
Yeah.
love that you're calling out people that aren't maybe doing that. Like, and they're saying all these things. And then everybody else who's maybe feeling that way right? They're pretty silent now. They used to say a lot. When I first came out, like the first year, I was in the comment section. I was battling them the whole time.
Yeah, and then you
And
learn. It's just
eventually,
like
yeah,
it's like any other evolution with
yeah,
maturity. It's just like, yeah, you just move and you look towards like the good and all that. And yeah,
yeah,
because otherwise you'll be spending every day arguing with people that you'll never meet. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
It's just yeah, it's crazy, right?
Boom! The self-defense industry is broken, wouldn't you agree? Have you gone from martial art to martial art looking for the responses that you need to have for a self-defense situation? Well, I spent 35 years training in martial arts. I acquired 7 different black belts to find out that when I pressure tested their shit, it didn't work. So what did I do? I had to come up with my own system. Make sure to check it out at budobrothers.com. Build the confidence you need to stay safe.
Um,
So what
you
do you
know,
think then, as far as it goes for either a stick or a knife fighting program? Because I want them to be the same in my mind, and I hope my
mm,
students do as well. What do you think is the best system? And I mean, please plug your own stuff if you want, right? And you should because it's great. But what do you think is like, so for somebody that can't come train to you or can't travel to you, sorry, and can't train with you, or somebody who can't come all the way up to, Moose and Beaver, Canada to come train with me. And obviously they should buy our digital system so they can train online,
mm.
calgarygroundfoot.com. What do you how are they going to go and train somewhere and build confidence that what they're doing is real or it could work?
I think you have to get. I mean, with regards to knife, realistic knife, right? Realistic defense. Um, you have to. I mean, you have to. Well, first of all, I tell everybody do your due diligence research. I mean, right? I
Okay.
mean, like put it in there and see what names come up,
Yeah.
and then ask about them. Ask the community about them. Like FMA discussion, go in there and say, hey, I mean,
Nice. Yeah.
somebody's going to answer you. I guarantee you.
Yeah.
You'll get more answers than you need, right? And they'll go, and the answers will still go on.
Careful what you ask for. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then once you've narrowed down the choice, you talk to that person, see if they're fit for you, see if they're going to fulfill your needs, be specific with your needs. Like,
Yeah.
I think a lot of times I think the student just takes for granted, like, okay, well, they just surrender themselves. Okay. And I don't think they're necessarily doing themselves any favors. I mean, look at everything we have literally access to our fingertips. I
Yeah.
mean, literally, right? As far as information, as far as videos to see, to dial in what you want,
Yeah.
or answers to a problem that you want to look into. Um, so to me, tapping into your resources, and basically, we always hear about the instructor interviewing students, right? Potential students.
Mhm.
Guess what?
Yeah.
Interview the instructor for potential instructor.
Right. Right.
I mean,
It's so
I would be
true.
so elated if somebody, whether it's messenger or called me, like, and I'd be like, wow, man, that I'm impressed. Like yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my take. Like, your due diligence. Like,
Yeah.
ask about the person and interview the person. Like, what is so wrong with that? You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be the other way around. Like,
Yeah. Well, and I think that's kind of the hard part, right? Like I just had a guy, he just joined us 3 weeks ago, right? And he's like, I seen all your videos online. I thought it was pretty cool. I wanted to come in. I didn't realize you're in Calgary. So, I was like, oh, where do you live? And he's a 35-minute drive away, right? Which is that's a lot, like that's not just, hey, I'm
yeah, I'm
close.
down the street.
Yeah, he could have gone to a lot of other places before he came to me,
Yeah.
right? So he comes in, I'm like, okay, sweet. I'm like, just so you know, like this is a hard program. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you're gonna fail, you're gonna suffer. The first couple months are gonna be really, really tough, but eventually you'll build some confidence, you'll build some skills that will get you through it, right? And I remember after his first trial class, he was like, holy shit. He's like, I don't know if I can like sign up for a year. I'm like, well, that's why in my system and at my dojo in the academy, I have either month by month or I have yearly, right? And he says, that's awesome that you do that. He's like, I went to another place, I tried their class, I liked it, I thought it was nice. He's like, but they had asked me to sign up for a year minimum. And he's like, I don't know if my body can do this anymore. He's like, I don't know how long I'll last. So he started off with 1 day a week for me. And under my recommendations, like train 1 day a week, see how your body feels, because he's a little older. See how your body feels. If it feels good, then in a couple of weeks, when it becomes the first of the month, switch to 2 classes a week and see how that feels. And if that feels good, okay, then switch to 3. Because you could do right now 8, 9 classes a week with me, right? And that's a lot of training. That's a
That's a
lot of,
lot. 8 to 9 classes a week.
yeah, like 3 a day, 2.5 hours, 3 times a week. Like
Yeah, yeah.
that's going to be tough on the body, right? So, but it's building that, and that's where I think there's this kind of this thing, and I don't know, is it a bad sales tactic as a business owner being good at business? No, that's how you get more clients. I used to be a personal trainer. I have friends who
No,
run
no.
fitness organizations. That's how they get their people in the door and they keep them in the door. It's way cheaper if you pay for 6 months in advance. It's even cheaper if you pay for a year in advance. If you commit to this, you're going to get all of these things.
Yeah,
Oh, you want month to month? That's going to cost you 3 times as much, right?
yeah.
So then people do it and then they don't end up coming. And so is it that the business is getting in the way of the students? So you can have a phenomenal environment, but now if you're pushing your students to sign up for a year and you're not giving them options to leave, it's tough. Like, but with that being said, like my monthly rate is more expensive than my yearly rate. And if you break out of the contract early, you have to pay a fee. Well, that's fine. I think that's more than fair, right? But I almost feel like the industry, to a degree, pushes people away from pressure testing places that are really hard to do. And the reason why I say that is because most MMA gyms
Mm,
don't actually offer an MMA program right away. Usually it's you have to have a BJJ background and you have to have a striking background. So you typically see Muay Thai offered and you typically see BJJ offered.
BJJ offered
So
before you
then
can
it's like, hey, like when you first signed up, you said you were expressing interest in MMA and possibly competing. Well, now you've trained for 6 months and we know that you're dedicated to BJJ and we know that you can suffer because BJJ teaches you about suffering. And we know that you don't mind about getting punched in the face with the Muay Thai world and your
go.
strike is okay. Well, now we'll invite you into our amateur MMA program where we do both and you learn how to integrate them together. But a lot of places won't offer that right away because this will wean those people out. So they're doing exactly what we're talking about is if we offer pressure testing, maybe
Got
we should be offering these instead. Here's a stick course or a stick class you could take. Here's a knife class you could take.
Mm,
Every now and then we do a little bit of pressure testing, a little bit of pressure testing, and then we see like, oh wow, a lot of people really didn't like that. Okay, but then you go and you approach those people, you're like, hey, sometimes we get together on Saturdays and we pressure test and we train. Like, would you be interested? And that one person out of the 20 is like, oh hell yeah, that sounds awesome.
yeah, yeah.
The other 19 are like, no, 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 I'm good. I like swinging sticks around. Sticks are fun, right? It
I think
helps
it's,
with my coordination. Like,
I know you're getting at. I think it's commercial school versus like for me,
yeah,
like I have tremendous, respect for you, like guys like you who are doing this for a living and and all that. For me, it's very hobby. I use my students to refine. I admit that to
yes.
them. I
I
don't
appreciate
charge
that
them.
honesty.
Yeah, I don't. So like everything is there's an aspect of experiment with my system.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, once I can make some conclusions, things get thrown out or included, right?
Yeah.
So with me, there's no commercialization like far as there. So it's like, here's what I have, you either like it or you don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And by now, and I totally give FMA's discussion its due credit for this. I mean, it did help me, obviously, my name and there without totally weaponizing it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Well,
yeah,
that's good. I mean, that's some good integrity you have, Dean.
yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But so yeah, but I gotta tell you, on the flip side, if I was doing this for a living, I would be doing everything you're mentioning right now. Yeah, absolutely. You
Well,
know,
it's actually it's to a degree it's helping me actually change my program right now. I shouldn't say my program, my schedule, right? Because what I realized is my student population before we really pressure tested hard when I opened my own dojo.
mm,
I had students that followed me from places that I had previously taught. Um, I had a really, really high number of adult students. And the average age was all over the place. We had 20-year-olds, we had 55, 60-year-olds,
mm.
right? And a lot of people were like staying. And then we started pressure testing more, and the student population went down, right? And then the age went down as well. So
Yeah.
now all of these, say, older people, right? Not even older because it's my age. These 40-year-olds are like, "Yeah, I'm way too sore the next day, man. Like, do you offer like more chill classes?" And in my head, I'm like, okay, as a business owner, what do I have to do? And it was actually when I was doing a KI lesson with Guro Dax Williams. He's
That's
awesome,
yeah,
by the way. He's
yeah.
so awesome. Like, if you
Yeah.
want to talk about techniques that work with a blade, with a sword, with a,
Mm,
his integration and his point of view with it, like, obviously, he honors Grandmaster Norman and
Norman, yeah, yeah,
right? And so on and go. And like it's so great, but at the same point, like I picked Dax's brain because it's him. He
yeah.
is he's beautifully minded. I love it. I love it, right? Um, so he goes, Kevin, right? We're having lunch after we train for like 6 hours, and he goes, um, you love Gong Fu, like my Gong Fu program. I'm like, I love it. He's like, what do you call it? I was like, well, MMA built for the street, for just to simply put. He's like, I can tell you love it. He's like, it's great. He's like, how busy are your classes? I'm like, they're pretty good. Right. I'm like, but things are starting to go down a little bit. He's like,
Mm,
why? I was like, because I want everybody to know Gong Fu. I want everybody to feel safe. And he's like, you're teaching to 1% of the population then. How many of your students, or how could you make that 1% 10%? I'm like, well, I could make it not be so hard. He's like, would you? I was like, no, no, no. He's like, well, then you have to do something else. And that's when I had introduced a self-defense class a year ago, and
yeah.
this self-defense class is doing well, right? But it's not as physically intense. So I'll typically have students will come and do the Gong Fu program, and they'll just get super sweaty and they'll be so tired and they'll be beat up and everything like that. And then they stay because the next class is like a sensitivity class. And then they'll stay even longer
Mm.
because the next class is like a self-defense class. So they know that the intensity is going to be dialed down by the end of the night, that they can make it through the two and a
I
half
make
hours,
it okay. Okay.
right? And it made me open up my eyes. And Dax helped me open up my eyes to like, well, maybe you should open more self-defense classes. Because if that's going to get more people
Yeah.
in, you can still be true to yourself. You can still pressure test it and make it hard, but it doesn't have to be this get your ass beat every day.
It's
You're
ballistic.
starting in mountain, somebody smashing your face, and it's
Yeah.
hard. And he's like, could you do that? And I was like, yeah. And like I used to run a class called karate, not karate, but core, right? So
Okay.
like I had a shredded 8 pack because of how much we were doing it. It was basically like 9 rounds of Rumble fitness class,
Yeah.
no self-defense whatsoever, no mindset. I considered myself a sellout for teaching this class. And I basically sold it to myself of, hey, I'm getting in a noon hour workout. Well, all of these other people are. Right. And
Yeah.
typically it was all, stay at home parents, stay at home moms, stay at home dads, right, who had time to be able to do it during the day and they come for a workout. And in my head right now, I'm like, shit, maybe I should offer more of those classes, right? Where
Here's the
people
thing
can
though,
just
like I
come
don't
for
have
a
an issue with
workout.
that because you're improving people's health.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Here's the thing you have to understand. And again, this is why I have so much, empathy for you guys. Because you gotta balance out, man, this whole thing of like you were just describing, man. Yeah, I was going really like, I'm sticking to this hardcore
Yeah.
pressure and they're gonna do an hour of sewing machine defense and I don't care.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then uh-oh.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you have to have that balance. Like, but at the same time, I think you can do it without quote unquote selling out. I mean, because selling out to me takes on a whole different bunch of definitions. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
We know people like that all too
Yeah, that's
well.
what I mean. And I don't construe what you're doing or what you've done as selling out. Like if
Yeah.
you were to put those cardio core karate, I
Yeah.
think that and you're improving people's health and you're getting out of the house, maybe they're going stir crazy. How's
Yeah.
that not a benefit?
Right. Right. Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
and I think it can, like, I mean, people that have consistently watched the podcast are going to hear me say this every freaking time is I don't care what you do, just don't call it something it's not.
And that really pertains to knife. Like
Yes.
okay, man, you want to believe, man, you're going against the Dog Brothers and you're going to get your check-in hand in on a caveman. I can tell you, I've gone with them. It's not going to happen. But if you want to train it, knock your socks off. Like
Yeah.
I'm not vested in that world.
Yeah.
But man, when it comes to knife, and you're saying like you're going to be able to tap your way defensively, like that stuff just drives you nuts. Because I want you like imagine this.
Yeah.
You're coming full at me in a straight line, and
Yeah.
I'm going to rely on tapping to stop you from killing me. Are you
Yeah.
really?
Just tapping. Just, yeah.
just tapping. It's not going to freaking happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what drives me nuts. Okay. Well, we're developing something the art. And if they're not selling it, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay, integrity of self. They're being
Yeah.
honest with their students.
Yeah.
But when you start saying, well, "Hey, well, this is how we defend against a knife,"
Yeah.
you know?
Well, and that's again, like, so post your video, just don't put a title, this will work against knife
Yeah,
defense, or this
right.
is good knife defense, or
Just
don't
yeah,
hashtag self-defense knife techniques, right?
yeah, I know. Like
Right. But
like 10 hashtags. You know what I mean?
right. But the reason why they do it is because it gets more views. And if it
Oh,
gets more views,
totally.
it might get them more students. If it gets them more students, it helps put food on the table. And in this economy with inflation and all these crazy things taking place, people are forced to kind of do this,
I
right?
think it goes beyond that. Like I totally get there's an economical lens and a need.
Yes.
I get that and appreciate. I think there's some folks though, they want to be the one. They want to be the
Oh.
one like that's most seen, most visible,
Mm.
or what they have is the best. I think there's an aspect of that, as well as definitely the need, the economic need. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So how would your average person that's watching this podcast, how would they know that that person isn't like that?
Is that like
Like
based on
their future teacher that they've looked at, they like their stuff, they live fairly close, they want to go train with them. Like, what are some warning signs that you've seen in your, decades of training and
what
effort?
they post? To me, the warning signs are all on social media. In other words, some people's egos get so big that they cannot help themselves what they put on there. Like I think it manifests so much into them. Now this is who they become, and you see them taking on this authoritative approach, and they know and this and that. And I've seen it. Like it's going on. Like as me and you are talking right now. So
Yeah.
in other words, I truly believe with social media, the cues are there. If you know
So okay,
what to
so
look
I totally agree, but let's get more specific to help people out. Okay. So for one thing that I see is putting down other styles to
putting
make
down, yeah,
yourself look good.
100%. If they're putting down, here's
I'd
the
say
thing. If
that's a
they're putting
big
down,
one, right? So
to me,
that's a
my opinion,
cue.
right? Especially well here. Okay, well let's dig into that.
Okay.
Here's my lens on that.
Okay.
If they're doing that in an open, okay, on social media, an open classroom setting,
Yeah.
garbage, leave them. Now, obviously, more candid conversations in a car ride, right? So
Okay.
to me, it's like, were you doing that? Are you doing it in front of a
Mm.
student body? Are you doing it in front of like thousands of social media followers?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely on that.
Okay. Okay. One thing that I get a lot from like a long-term, long life martial artist, I get a lot of emails, a lot of comments where they're like, hey, I've been training martial arts for like 30 or 40 years. when I see you move on camera, I obviously can tell that you're super well trained, that you know your body really well. You have gong fu in my term, or you have proprioception. But for people that can't recognize how somebody
Mhm.
moves, how or what kind of things do you think that they could look for when watching that certain instructor to see if if it would work or not, or to
How
see
they carry themselves.
how they
Like
carry
how
themselves?
how they carry them, like are they come across in this very arrogant fashion? Are they genuine? Like you get a feel for people. You know what I mean? You
Well,
do.
you do, and I do, but like, so for
The average
example, my
layman,
mom,
maybe
right?
not.
My
Yeah,
mom's watching this shit, and I show her video, and I show her this, and I show her mine, right? I'm like, which one's better? She's like, well, obviously yours. I love you, and I was like, no, 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 mom. Like, we're doing the exact same technique, mom. Can you see it's the
yeah,
same technique? And she's like, oh, well, now you say that, yeah, it looks like it. I was like, do you see the differences? She's like, well, you kind of make it look a little better. And I was like, well, what makes it look better? She's like, well, it looks like your guy isn't just holding a stick out and you're doing something to
yeah,
him,
yeah, 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 yeah.
right? So is that maybe one that you
I
see?
think so. I mean, like
Yeah.
Bert. I mean, that's a big thing. Bert knows, like not just leaving. Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. Right. So no, but here's the thing, though. What is their value system? Because
Mhm.
like no, okay, so if they're looking for functionality and they see like, okay, well, yeah, that's probably going to cue them like, oh, next, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So, but what's the education? I mean, in other words, where's the maturity or education level of the person watching?
Yeah.
Are they dialed into functionality? We'll leave that out. We're probably going to deter them and they're going to move on.
Yeah.
Somebody who just doesn't know, but they see this, but and you're doing cool things with their arms hanging out, that could maybe attract them because they don't care about functionality.
Very true. Very true. Yeah.
I
So
mean, this gets into the thing. Like it's kind of correlates with this. There was discussion. Well, for the guys who just drill and all that, they're not as important or significant as the guys who spar. And my argument to that was, if I want to come over fear, anxiety, man, I go to a beat the crap out of cancer gathering, and I'm able to handle that through that sparring, and it helped me. Fantastic.
yeah.
But you're going to tell me the guys that pressed on the couch, he goes to a Balintawak class or a Marnie class, he is invigorated, he's off the couch. You're trying to tell me that's more value? Your sparring is more valuable than that guy?
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Well, and that's where your ego is being projected psychologically and saying, well, because I don't prioritize this, they shouldn't prioritize that.
Exactly.
And I think that's the tough part, right?
That's a
So
turn
then
off,
I
right?
guess another thing that people could look for is the ego, is how they present themselves, right? But also like maybe reading their bio, right? Maybe going to their website and seeing what they're about, or
And then
like
asking, like we were talking
best
about
case,
before,
having a discussion with them. Sorry, what did you say?
right? Talking to them or asking others, right? I think falling back to that interview kind of, investigatory lens, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but that's what I mean. It's social media. I tell you, it's like it's this double-edged sword.
it really is. It really is.
Like yes, obviously it's fantastic for numerous reasons:
Yeah,
interaction,
yeah,
exposure,
yeah,
self-promotion, and
yeah.
yeah. But then it gets so abused on the other end. It actually deters people that walk away just because you have to filter and deal with that side. You know what I mean? And that side is weaponized a lot. You know what I mean?
Well, and it is. And I mean, for those of you guys that don't know, or if you're a up and coming, social media influencer, I'll help you out here. Okay. I'll give you some insider information. If you post a great video, and by mean great is you did everything right, it looks great on camera, you nailed the technique, you did it fast, you were succinct in your talking, you're probably going to get best case scenario with a whole bunch of followers, 10,000 views. Okay.
Mm.
And I mean minimal comments. And your comments are actually just one comment. So love what you do. Thanks. right? Sub comment, you'll reply thanks. If you want to go viral, you don't do that. Instead, you put out a bad video where you're not perfect, where you're showing mistakes, where you have speech impediments like myself, or speech issues where you say escape versus escape because you have too much saliva in your damn mouth. And now the audience will go through and make fun of you for that. Or when they watch you run because you're disabled and your spine is screwed up, and they call you on how retarded, pardon my language, but how bad you run. And
I
like
feel
you
so
look like you're
terrible now.
broken.
I feel so terrible when you run towards those stairs.
Right? And then in the comments section, somebody says that would never work. And you don't reply, yes, it would, you're stupid. But you actually reply with, please tell me more of why you don't think it will work.
Yeah.
And then you get a sub comment to the sub comment to the sub comment. And now the algorithms are like, ooh, there's a battle. This guy doesn't
What
like
you're
it.
explaining right now,
Right?
I
And
would
now all
never
of this is
guess.
going to go. That video that you thought would do terrible will
Is
actually
viral
do a
now.
million plus views, ladies and gentlemen. There's your insider info. This
Wow.
is where you get addicted to the dopamine of watching your phone and being like, I got
Jeez.
1,000 more followers. I got 1,000,000 views. I got this. Do you know how I know that? And do you know how I know?
It's gotta
Because
be
I've been
addictive, like
through
you
it.
said.
Right? But not just that. Here's one for you. I just did some Halloween stuff for my channel, right? 4 days in a row, did some Halloween stuff. I let my son be a part of the videos, and he's been involved in the process, but I'm trying not to get addicted to it. But I want to run a little experiment, and I say, hey, son, because I don't want to use his name, right? Hey, look at this. Your videos now that you were a part of, that you cameoed in, right? They're over 775,000 views now.
Wow.
Daddy, how many followers do I have? How many of this? I'm like, no, Grayson, no, no, no. I'm like,
You don't
on
have
your
your,
channel, it's my channel, right? I'm just saying. And he's like, that's super cool. And you could see him, he's asking now, Daddy, what are we at today? What's dopamine hit? How can I get more? I want to feel like I'm important. I want to feel all of this. Yes, ladies and
see
gentlemen,
the
you will
power of
become
freaking social media.
more, yeah, you will become more popular. And by popular, I mean you will have more followers. But there's a difference here, okay? For those of you guys that know who Dust is, Detroit Urban Survival Training, I'll even shout out to him. He nailed it. He launched at the right time during COVID. He built a massive following, all of these things. But guess what? He is laughed at in the industry, right? I just surpassed him in followers, and he was the guy I needed to chase for self-defense. Are you kidding me? Shit
Wow.
that didn't work and shit that doesn't work. But people, I feel that people follow me not because I put out BS stuff. I feel that they do it because they respect what I do and love what I do.
Yeah, your
What I
honesty and
hate,
your integrity.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
appreciate that. I
yeah,
appreciate that, Dean.
yeah. No,
What
definitely.
I
It's
hate
interesting.
is
Wow.
right now in the FMA world is we have certain individuals, and I don't want to call them out, but if you're in the world, you know, there are certain individuals that are so addicted to the dopamine that they're actually making a bad name for FMA. And I love it. I love, in a way, it's a double-edged sword. You're
It is,
promoting
man.
FMA, you're getting the name out there, which is great. But how are you doing that? Are you doing it with integrity? If you don't have an integrity, that's fine. That's your ego, that's your life, that's your cup of tea. You live your life, bro. I don't care. I really don't. I don't care.
Yeah.
But are you doing so in a respectful or in a martial art way? Because that's what martial arts is about. It's
Yeah.
about people that have character, that have integrity, that have discipline, that treat others with respect, that are the difference. That's the difference between fighters and martial artists. GSP is a martial artist, right?
Yeah.
Fighters are Conor McGregor. You hate
Yeah.
him, but you love him, but you also hate him,
Yeah.
right? Who hates GSP? Only people that hate the French hate GSP. That's it.
I've never met anybody. Oh, I can't stand him. Yeah, right, exactly. I've met a lot of people who can't stand McGregor. Right.
And that's why I'm fired up by it, because it's like, I get what you're doing. I know what you're doing. I'm in the game and I get it. But what are you doing for it?
No, that's the thing. That's the other right. Because here's the thing. Okay. Yeah. Like, are they hurting FMA? But at the same time, they're bringing
Yeah.
some exposure.
It's a
But
double-edged sword.
which one outweighs? In my opinion, if they're bringing exposure, but I know their heart is behind FMA and what they do and all that there. If they're kind of like trying to be the new thing
New
and
dust.
professional integrity, I basically stopped following you, and I really probably don't have much interaction with you anymore. Like, and I'm saying that was a few people,
Yeah.
and yeah, you
And
know what I
I think
mean.
that's good. Yeah. So, I mean,
I think 'cause I think there's people who they may question and like question of videos and all that, and some of these people, but I know where their heart is.
yeah.
I do. I know where their heart is because I've seen them with their kids. The kids, I'm like, I've seen it. Like, I've been on the floor. I've seen it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know some of their vids are annoying people. I know. I've heard it. I get a rash of emails. Believe me.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm not privy to this. I don't know who's who. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's some there. I hate to say it. I'm not sure. And I'm not saying I'm right.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about their intentions.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's all we're trying to do, is we're just trying to open up people's eyes,
Mm.
right? And sometimes Dean and I have both been through it. Sometimes you join that school and you practice with them, and then the truth eventually comes out. And then you have
It
to
gets
make,
revealed one way or another, right?
right? Do I sacrifice the money I made or the money I spent on this program, and do I quit and do I leave early,
Yeah.
right? And do I have a sour taste in my mouth? And to be honest, like, there are times where I've had a sour taste in my mouth, but I had to find a perspective. And the perspective was, do you know what I did learn? I may not have learned self-defense techniques, but I did learn about community. I did learn that I love martial
Mm.
arts. I did learn that I love doing all of these things and I love spending time. I'm just going to find a community that is more aligned with my beliefs and my
And my
value.
value systems.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's all you can
And,
do.
and
Like,
what I prioritize in training. I think that's why it's so important that we don't knock those other schools down or those other people down of, listen, post whatever you want, do whatever you want. Just don't call it something it isn't.
so no, or what you're selling as defense, and you are tailoring the video, and like, and especially with knife, I mean, the more you're versed in a subject matter, you can pick up on that nuances where somebody is watching it, they're going to be like, oh, this, because they don't even know what they're looking at, or they don't know what to look for, I should say. And so I see a lot of that going on, that tailoring of videos, just, you know what I mean, or who people are really good at it. But if you've been in there, you can know by the range of the feed, the dynamic of the
Yeah.
feed, and you just
Yes.
know, you just know, right?
Well, and I think that's what's tough, is for the average person who doesn't know,
That's it. And you're saying,
is
oh man,
you
that's the
just get
best thing
in.
I've ever seen. And you're like,
Yeah.
what do you say?
Or you could always send one of those videos to Dean, and I know that Dean loves talking to people.
Yeah. I mean, but here's the
Right?
thing though, but you
Instead, a
brought up
video
a
would be
good
like,
point.
what's your thought of this? Like,
Yeah,
I seen you on Kevin Goat's podcast. Do you think that this is good? I don't care how you respond. Please
I'd be,
respond yes or
I
no.
would be honored if folks did that. I
Uh,
would give them the time of the day, and I would give them my true assessment from being there. Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome, Dean. And I've always really, really respected
Yeah.
how you do go the extra mile. So I think that was great. That was a fantastic kind of chat about the
Yeah.
realities of knife defense. It gives some people an idea of how to prioritize their training if they are looking to FMA. I love Filipino martial arts. You love
Yeah.
Filipino martial arts. We love just training. We love pressure testing. This is a chance to plug you yourself. Be selfish. Don't be humble. And where do people get a hold of you, Dean? How do they train with you?
Yeah,
How do they?
I just want to say one thing,
Yeah,
Kamal, with you.
please,
Like,
please.
you're absolutely right. People, like what you just said, they're gonna do what they do. Just let them do what they do. Don't get, because otherwise you can get freaking like so like drawn into that, and then it creates negativity within you, and you're not doing yourself any favors. I just want the people to know,
Nice.
like, if there is an entity or a person or that is, don't get consumed by it. They're gonna do what they're gonna do. Just you know what I mean? Don't let it affect you. Right.
Awesome.
Um,
Awesome. Very, very, very wise words there, my friend.
yeah.
See, you're
Uh,
almost 60. You're dropping bombs like that. Boom.
yeah, well, been around the block and seen different things, different people, FMA discussion, you see all walks of life. And yeah, so yeah, people want to get a hold of me through, again, more than happy that I would look at people's vids if they saw that. Yeah, I'd be more than happy to do that. Yeah, to get a hold of me, Messenger and Facebook is the best way. If you have an interest in Western Piper methods, Medusa or Blade Technologies, or CLOT, I'm really promoting Bird's program there. Yeah, Messenger is definitely the best way to get a hold of me in that regard. You could on Instagram. I'm nowhere as prolific on Instagram as
No, yeah. If I know to get hold of Dean Franco, Franco, guys, Dean Franco, Facebook Messenger.
yeah, that's the
That's the
easiest.
way
And
to
I
go. Like I
yeah,
don't
and I
even
really
text you. I send you messages on Messenger.
yeah, that's the best way. And I want to give a big, I love what you're doing, always have. I
Oh, thank
admire
you.
you from afar, still do. And
Appreciate that.
I wish you the best and continuing success.
Thank
And
you.
I thank you for always H&H, humble and honored that you brought me on here. You got a
For sure.
plethora of other people.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely won't be the last time. So, um, also make sure to check out Dean's channel or page on
Yeah,
Facebook, FMA Discussion.
discussion.
Okay, I think it's the source right now for Filipino martial art related topics and
Mm,
theories. If you want to see how incredibly political and dramatic the FMA world is, it's just as bad as Wing Chun. It's just as bad as every other martial art
JKD
there,
or whatever.
right? But this is it. I mean, my girlfriend always jokes around. She's like, "You guys are a bunch of junior high girls. It is so ridiculous. What is
Yeah,
wrong with you? You
I
all
get
have
it's
and
so
I'm like,
true.
yes, yes, I know, but this is martial arts, babe. I love it. Shut up. Anyways, just kidding. I would never tell her to shut up. So if you guys want to get a hold of me, obviously self-defense with Kevin Goat or at self-defense Goat for all the channels. Make sure to take a look at that. If you like golf, I even started my own golf thing, Kevin Goat Golf. I'm giving it a try and filming what I do. It's a new passion. It's an old passion, but a new one now that my back's doing a
Oh,
little.
nice.
If you want to see me smash a whole bunch of long balls, check that out. It's just on Instagram right now. Oh no, and I just started on YouTube. But the big one, ladies and gentlemen, well, there's many, but there's two big ones I want to be pushing today. The first one is Dean and mine's knife defense seminar. You're
Yeah.
not going to get knife on knife stuff here. You're building a really good base of knife defense. That is available for purchase at calgarygongfu.com. It's on my website. Go to there. It should pop up. If not, just send me an email at calgarygongfu@gmail.com and I'll show
Mm,
you how to get in. Maybe even give you a discount code too, if you're lucky. And then the other one, which we just started, selfdefensegoat.ca, is my Shopify store. In Canada, we don't make money off Instagram. We don't make money off TikTok. Facebook sucks for making money off of, and they always ban our videos because they're too realistic for self-defense.
oh, jeez.
And YouTube is kind of the only way that we make a little bit of money, but I don't make money off this, guys. It costs me money. So if you can help support by buying a hoodie, buying a t-shirt, buying a sweet self-defense pen that we just launched on there, there's some pretty cool stuff. Stay tuned for future videos and discount codes for that. So I'm finally getting good at these plugs, Dean. It only took
Yeah. Hey,
so,
we got to do it together.
yeah,
Okay.
we gotta do it together. Okay, everybody stay safe out there. Ready, Dean? 3, 2. Yeah.